This is the Self-Taught or Not podcast with
Dylan Israel
and Eric Hanchett, where we teach you the do's and don'ts of software development from two software development professionals, one self-taught and one not. Alrighty, so today we are talking about a very fun topic that as a developer is near and dear to my heart because I like marketing. So we're going to talk about marketing for developers. And I think this topic is very interesting because I think we all have, as developers, different ideas of good marketing and bad marketing and how we want to be marketed to. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the things that's worked for me in the past when talking to developers and selling them things, and also some things that may not have worked, and then some general things that just general philosophies on marketing. So if you're listening right now and you're like, I have no interest in marketing, don't worry. I think you're going to learn something. I think this is just an interesting topic, even if you never plan to actually sell anything to anyone. I think this is a kind of neat ideas that you should know as someone that might be buying things, and just understanding how marketing works. It will make you a better developer. It'll make you better and understand how marketers go and do things.
Yeah, and I think one, common misconception about marketing is that you have to be selling somebody something. It's not necessarily the case. Like, I've worked on documentation sites that I plan on releasing that I don't plan to sell. I just want people to use and, learn from it. And if you make the best product in the world, but you don't know how to actually get people to use it or see it or know about it, then it doesn't do any good.
You have to have this mindset that you're trying to help people. So have you ever watched like Boiler Room? It's Ben Affleck. Dylan?
No. Listen, man, I just watch anime and like esports.
Well, there's a couple of pretty popular movies that have tainted what we view of marketing in general. I think Glenn Ross is one of them. Like, always be closing. So imagine that you're in a room and someone is just giving you a full-on, super intense, high-pressure sales situation that you have to do something, otherwise something bad's going to happen. And that we're tricking people, like these people are basically tricking you into buying something. And so I think people get this idea that selling and sales and marketing is this negative thing in our lives, when it really is. If you do it right, it's nothing like that at all. It's basically exchanging something that's valuable from one person to another, and then making sure that other person understands the value.
Yeah, I think like the go-to example is like the timeshare salesman, where they just lock you in a room for like 4 hours, and like, I don't know if anyone knows anything about timeshares, but like they have like one of the worst ratings with the Better Business Bureau, and like 97% of people regret buying it. And so that's like I think that's the go-to, like, oh, hey, this is marketing and high pressure sales, which isn't really the case.
A little tangent. I don't know if you've ever had that happen. I was in Hawaii with my wife, and we were at this really nice hotel. And when we checked in, the guy said, "Oh, if you want to, there's a desk set up over there. You can get free luau tickets." I'm like, cool, free luau tickets. I mean, then I thought in the back of my head there must be some sort of catch. So me and my wife, we walk up to the counter. There's a guy behind it with a bunch of paperwork, in a suit and tie. Looks very official. I'm like, hey, we heard that there was free luau tickets for new guests. He's like, oh yes, absolutely. So let me tell you about this luau. It starts at this time. It's 3 hours long. It's normally like $150 or it's $75 per person or something like that. And then at the end of it, he's like, all you need to do is show up at this hotel room at 3:00 tomorrow to learn a little bit more about the island's offerings. I'm like, island's offerings? What are you talking about? It's like, yeah, you just need to show up here. I need to get your name and email address and phone number, and then I'll give you this ticket. You show up there and you get the free luau tickets. So then we kind of like went back and forth with them, and we found out, no, it's a timeshare, and you have to be there for the full 2 hours. And my wife's like, yeah, we should do it. We can just say no a bunch of times. I'm like, this is super high pressure sales. We're going to be in this room and they're going to pressure us for 2 hours and it's going to be really difficult. She's like, no. And so I won out. I said, no, I don't want to do it. So we just bought the luau tickets, but I just kind of, I don't know, something just triggered that in my head when you mentioned that.
Dude, stay away. Let this be a warning to all you developers who are about to go pay. People spend their, especially us, man, when you go from like having no income to like a real income, you get that lifestyle creep. This is a stupid lifestyle creep. Don't do it. Please don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. So let's talk about some other misconceptions before we kind of dive into marketing. And by the way, this is a ginormous topic, marketing in general, and definitely for developers. So we're going to do high level on some of these areas. I definitely am not going to go into super detail. I think we could there's been whole books written about this. You can do a 10-hour podcast, a 100-hour podcast in this, but I'm going to do some areas and we're just going to kind of do high level. I think this is very interesting though. So this is some of the limiting mindsets or some of the misconceptions I've heard is that, and I want to hear from you, Dylan, if you agree or disagree with these, is that developers don't buy things.
Yeah, it's I think it's hot garbage, man. I'll be honest. Like, are some developers cheap? Yeah, I consider myself pretty cheap. If I can get something for free, I will. But like, developers are, if they're smart with their money, have excess income, and you spend excess income. When you have bonus money, you spend on things that you like. And like, how many of us have nice setups at home, like just a standing desk or computer? But no, I don't buy it at all. That's just me.
There's also the idea, and I also call this limiting mindset. That's maybe a term you may have heard, where it's like you think a certain way, and you can't imagine that people think a different way. So I've also heard like, don't ever try to sell anything for over $10. Developers don't buy things that are over $10. I've heard that developers don't value their time. They rather spend 2 hours Googling something rather than spending $50 on a topic that will show it for them. And then I've also heard like developers are keen on immune to marketing. So if you send an email if you send an email to someone and has some marketing messages, that the developers will see right through it. So there's even some people even go as far as that you can't effectively market to developers because they're too smart. I've found in my life that none of these things are true. There's always a subset that these things may be true in. For example, the pricing, like $10 or less. We're in an industry that is, and for rightfully so, for some people, that there's a lot of cheaper courses out there. Some are $10, some require a $25 a month subscription, but there's a lot of cheaper courses out there. So I think people tend to think that developers won't buy more expensive courses, or they don't value more expensive courses. And then there's people like that are in third-party worlds or our second world countries, which $10 is a lot of money, or maybe $100 is a lot of money, but $10 just the right amount. But I feel like there's no one. There's always a market for these different people out there, and you just need to find them. And as someone that has sold $10 courses and someone has sold $300 courses, there are people on both sides.
Yeah. It's not a one size fits all for pretty much anything you're marketing, other than maybe water. Even then, you have smart water. You got the cheap water, you got the expensive water, right? And you don't want to assume that you are marketing to the entire world, because once you do that, you're not really marketing to anybody.
Yeah, I almost think of it like there's a whole lot of new developers, young developers who either right out of college they don't have a ton of money, or maybe you're listening right now and you don't work as a developer, but you kind of aspire to be a developer. And so if I told you that you should pay $100 for a course, you may be like, wow, that's way too expensive. I can buy $10 courses on XYZ platform. But maybe you're not the target market for that course. Then maybe that $100 course would be better for someone that is a little bit older, has a little bit more dispensable income. Maybe their company can pay for it. So just kind of understanding like who your market is. It's not for everyone. It might be only for a smaller subset of people. That's okay too. I mean, let me ask you this: have you bought a course over $10, $100, or $200, Dylan?
I've bought one course for $100. Besides that, it's been $10 or like 15.
Right. So like Dylan's a great guy, but I don't think he would be like the right market if I was trying to target. Maybe some of his coworkers would be, but maybe not like Dylan himself, because he is probably one of those people who would go and learn a lot of this stuff on their own and wouldn't want to buy a course or buy something that would do that. And just different types of people. Let me. I will say that this marketing world that we live in is full of gurus and
Scammers.
Scammers and and a lot of people wanting to take your money. So if you've ever, who's the guy that has like the Lamborghini in his garage and he
Oh,
opens
it's
up?
Tai Lopez.
So I think Tai Lopez, I have not researched Tai Lopez, but from everything I've heard, he's definitely one
Oh,
of those guys that.
let's dump on Tai Lopez. This is like one of my national favorite like pastimes.
I think we may have talked about this in season 1, but go ahead.
We need to make it a seasonal thing. We should just make sure at least one episode. I just it's there's so many gurus and anyhow, so you guys don't know about Tai Lopez. He's a master marketer that essentially rented a house and a Lamborghini and made an advertisement video promoting all his marketing stuff as if he owned these things, and he got rich because of it. And it just blows my mind that people still follow this guy. It really does. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Like, if we were over here and we did 3 seasons of a software podcast and you found out that we don't know, we've never worked as software developers, we've never even coded, we just thought this was a niche that could be filled, so we just made some stuff up, wouldn't you feel betrayed and like maybe you shouldn't take our advice because we haven't actually done these things? But no, people follow him. It drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely nuts. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think. Whoever you buy from, you need to do a little bit of research to find out who they are, if they're worth buying from. I will mention one other name. His name, he comes off the name. His name's Kazi, and he's with Clever Programmer. And that guy's definitely a scam artist. Everything I've seen with what he's done, I've talked to him. He tried to sell me a $5,000 course. He had this really high pressure sales when I was talking to him. As far as I can tell, he's a master at marketing, but his courses are pretty poor. So that's another guy I would steer clear of. Clever Programmer. But there's definitely some people in this industry that I look up to and that I really value their feedback. And there is a book that I highly recommend called Launch. It's by a guy named Jeff Walker. I definitely would recommend people check that out. Pat Flynn, he is from the Smart Passive Income blog and podcast. He talks about this idea of super fans. Rob Walling is another one I would highly recommend. He has his own startup accelerator, and he ran a company called Drip, and he has this idea called the Stair step approach. And this also a lady named Amy Hoy that has this 30 by 500 program. I'm not going to go into the details, but I just kind of want to give you ideas. If you are Googling around, you want to know a genuine good marketers, good developer marketing people, then I would check this out. Russell Brunson and Jeff Walker, not so much on the developer side, but just great marketing advice. Did I mention Russell Brunson? Yeah, Russell Brunson's another one. So there is this theory that I like to use when marketing, kind of just the basics starting to market is, and it comes from Adam Wathan. And if you don't know, Adam Wathan is a big-time developer in the community. He created Tailwind CSS. He's also wrote a bunch of books and stuff for developers. But he has this idea of like being helpful on the internet. And this kind of actually ties into a couple of the gurus I talked about before, Amy Hoy and her 30 by 500 and Rob Walling and his Stair step approach. I mean, they all have similar ideas where you this really focuses on content marketing. So you basically make epic content, be that, really amazing YouTube videos, really amazing blog posts, better than a lot of the stuff out there. And it will make people want to follow you. And it kind of gives the idea, if you create this really amazing content, it will get shared, it will get linked to, your name will be well known, you'll get more followers. And then if you continue to create this epic content on the internet, at some point you can sell to those people. It's almost like this reciprocity. So if someone gives all the time to you, then you are more likely to build a relationship. They'll know, like, and trust you, and then you could sell them something that they want later on. Gary Vaynerchuk is another kind of guru you may hear about. Some people don't like the term guru, but a businessman. He has a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook, which kind of illustrates this idea of being able to give and give and give, and then at some point you might ask for something in return. What do you think about that, Dylan?
I mean, that's my go-to, man. Like, I think it's the freemium model, really, at the end of the day. Give something for free, and then, a portion of the audience will buy from you. And at the same time, you build your brand, you market yourself. And, unlike a product, most of us, when we're talking about marketing as developers, this is going to be marketing yourself. Like, yeah, you might market something you're working on, but there's value in marketing yourself and a product and putting stuff out there, showing that you're knowledgeable or you have some level of expertise. That's going to help you in a ton of different ways. And so, like, the freemium model, I think that's cool. Provide value, and then people can see that you are worth something in terms of, how they value you. And then once they value you because they gave you a shot because you gave it away, go and, show them the premium value, right?
Yeah, and I kind of like that idea too. That I would have one criticism of the be helpful on the internet idea that Adam Wathan kind of infiltrated it. There is more than one way of getting notoriety, getting people to follow you, other than creating epic content. Sometimes you can create normal content, not necessarily epic content, but create a lot of it. I think there's quality in quantity. So if you are able to create not bad content, but content that's not necessarily epic, but you're delivering value for a long period of time, I think that's one way of doing it. And I think that what's scary about Adam Wathan's Be Helpful on the Internet strategy, it really focuses on quality to the point where us as developers, it's hard to say, like, is this good enough? So I could see some people trying to take this strategy on and creating a $10,000 word blog post and being like, well, this isn't good enough because this isn't epic enough. And then I also could see the other opposite problem where you may create what you think is epic content and then you release it out there and the market doesn't respond. You hear crickets. You either, this is assuming that when you create epic content that it just bubbles to the top, because he really emphasized you should probably create less and not more. So if you create a really epic post and you put it out there and it doesn't get picked up by one of these big Twitter users and doesn't get shared around enough, then it feels like you may have wasted a bunch of time. And a lot of marketing is not just sitting around waiting for your content to just magically being shared and be helpful to people. You have to actively go out there and share the content that you create. Talk to other bloggers, make friends with other developers who would tweet out your things. Repost your content, not on just your blog, but maybe you repost it on dev.to, which is this other developer community, or you create Medium articles on it, or you create Hashnode. I mean, you kind of have to have a strategy with your epic content. So I think the Adam Wathan's idea is the right idea. I think just some of the execution and details of how you would really become someone other people want to follow and how you get other people to actually notice you, I think that there's some missing pieces there. And I think Adam Wathan also had, when he blew up, he had a pretty big network of huge influencers that were around him that could really push his things. I think he was like friends with the guy that made Laravel, and he was friends with Wes Boss and a few other people that really helped him market at the beginning. So don't forget about like making those relationships and having some friends along the way that could that are really higher than you or more popular than you to really push your things out.
Yeah, and this is kind of a little bit off topic, but when I build a project, I have a level of expectation of how much work I'm going to put in and what the return is going to be. And if you just go and, you don't think about like what is success for you, what is the level of effort you put into marketing something and what is the return you're expecting to get, that you may be underwhelmed if you have unrealistic expectations, or you just never thought about it and you just put in a ton of effort and then you thought, oh, like, okay, it's got to work. You don't really want to be in a like it has to work or I'm going to just be devastated. So you want to understand that some of these things are steady growth and steady effort, but try and think of how much effort you're going to put into marketing something and what your expectations are, so you don't sort of set yourself up for failure in that way.
The hardest thing is like when the outcome doesn't meet the expectations. Like I really thought that was going to do great, and then nobody sees it. I feel like that every time I release a YouTube video. I never know. Like I stopped giving myself expectations on something. I mean, sometimes I have a hint in the back of my mind, like something will do well, and then sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But like kind of setting yourself up to be like, I don't, don't put yourself down if you don't hit those expectations, or at least try to learn from it, I guess.
Yeah, because like I don't know, like I think there's an equal level of effort for reward, and sometimes I think people just think they're going to do something and they don't think about like what they're expecting to get out of it and how much effort it takes. Like, oh, I made $100. Well, did you make $100 in an hour, or did you make $100 in 6 months? And like, what did it take to get you? Like, cool, money's money, but like, same thing goes with marketing, where like marketing is something that you actively have to do. It's not really something you can put on the back burner. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, and it takes that away. Those are limited resources. So like if you don't set like, okay, here's the amount of time and effort I want to put into marketing, and here's the general like idea of what if I do that, what I define as success with that. Was my marketing successful? Maybe it went out to 5,000, but your people you got on your product, maybe you wanted 500,000. Like, was that reasonable? And understanding and sort of seeing, are you in the ballpark? Because it's going to be, if you're marketing something, it's probably for the long term. It's not for like 2 weeks. And so sometimes it's good to know what your degree of success and what your degree of effort is.
Sometimes to that point, sometimes I like to make goals for myself for some of the marketing things I do, like or launches or products I create, where I'll have a good, better, or best. And good is like, okay, I'm not going to be upset I didn't do this, but it's nothing, it's not to be alarmed, but it's definitely like I can do better next time. So maybe I want to make $1,000 in sales. I'm just making up these numbers. My better is like if I can make $3,000, like that'd be amazing. That would be like feel really good with that number. And best is like I blew it out of the water, like I made $10,000 in sales or more. And then that way you can kind of judge how each one of your marketing efforts work or your launches work. So if you're under 1,000, then you can think like, oh, maybe it's time to hit the panic button a little bit and trying to figure out what I did wrong, which we'll talk about here in a second. So let's talk about when you're starting to market. When you're starting marketing, obviously you have to create a product, and we're not going to go into how to create a product. We had a whole podcast on making money as a developer, and we talked about, I think we had 2 or 3 episodes about that, about different ways you can make money as a developer and different side projects. So we're not going to talk about a product, like an individual product, but we'll assume that you have a product at this point. Now, if you don't have a product, there is, I'll hint on it. We won't get into too much, but you can come up with an idea and then tweet it out, ask other people for their opinions. Work in public is kind of a phrase you might hear a lot. That's where, as you're creating, let's say, a course, you want to teach people on, like I teach Vue.js a lot. I would tweet out in public Vue.js videos of me creating the projects. I'll create YouTube videos on it. And so you can kind of get feedback even before you start of like if you're picking the right idea by the reception that you're getting for people when you put things out there. So you may want to, if you put a tweet out in your normal amount of retweets and likes you get is 5 or 6, and you get double that, and when you tweeted out this interesting tidbit about the course that you're going to be creating, that might be a good sign that people are interested. But I wouldn't take just one tweet. Obviously, I would take maybe multiple outlets. People, if you have, we could talk about this in a moment, email lists. If you ask people on your email list of how interested they are in certain ideas and you're getting a lot of feedback, that might be a good idea that you can work on a project like that. I also like this quote. Adam Rathern had this quote, like, don't go for the easy solutions, go for the hard ones. In other words, if you are teaching a concept, there is a lot of beginner content out there, but if you go for some of the harder content that people aren't teaching as often, that could be, not always, but could be a good way and a good niche, a good product for you to handle, because you're going after kind of the harder cases and things that other developers or other products are kind of skipping because it's a little bit more difficult. And then also the idea of you got to ignore from some extent the negative feedback that you get, but I would be wary if you don't get any positive feedback at all. So maybe a couple of things, you want to try to validate your product before you start your marketing. The worst thing you want to do is not ask anybody for any opinions or just kind of come up with an idea randomly off the top of your head that's not based on any research or anything and then try to sell that and start marketing it. I think you want to try to get some sort of validation that this is what people would want and this is a product that people would like. And I would say for developers, I'm going to assume that for us developers, you can obviously create your own products, but there's a whole, I think, easy mode for developers when they're trying to sell their first thing online is sell an informational product, because informational products are something you should know already since you're working in the technology. And it's a really good stair stepping. Going back to Rob Walling has the stair stepping concept. It's a really good way to learn what you need to know to be able to market and how to sell something online, how to deal with customers, and how to build copywriting. So like an information product is a great way to start to create something that you can sell online.
Yeah,
Would you
yeah.
agree?
There's one thing I would want to touch on. Informational product, great place to start. Probably a lot of competition though because of that. But one thing that you said about ignore the haters, and I think this is something that is, until you've sort of faced people critiquing you on the internet, and like I think like most people that go, they just sort of use social media as any sort of, just, hey, I'm sharing family pics, this is what I'm doing. And for the most part, you get nothing but, friends and close ones that are like supportive. It's not always going to be like that when you start putting yourself out there. And it's this weird balance of not getting an ego for when you get positive feedback that's important, but being proud of what you've done and of your hard work. And also when the negativity comes, not letting it impact you. And I know these have been things that I've struggled with, like because some people just say nasty stuff, man. Like, and there are people that you're going to market to that are just going to hate you for trying to sell a product. It doesn't matter if it's a good product, if it's value right, if it's whatever. And so you just got to be mentally prepared for that. And I don't know. It's just one of those things. I don't think you can really realize how nasty some of it can be till it actually happens to you, till you actually go out on a limb there.
And I think that gets amplified by more how popular your product is. So if you are unlucky and you only have a handful of people buying your product and not many people know about it, you're probably not going to get a ton of negative feedback. But as you get more and more popular, the negative feedback will come in. I think a part of it is, I think we've talked about this before, like the crabs in the bucket. You see, I think it's human nature when someone is doing better than you, either relationship wise or professionally or some other way, where you look at them and you kind of want to, some people, not everyone, but some people want to knock those people down a few notches to make themselves feel better. So if you're sitting there and you're a developer and you see someone that was at your level, a month ago, and now they're trying to sell products and do all these things, it's easy to kind of discount what they're doing and make crude comments, and you may not even realize you're doing it. to them, but you're like, wow, you're trying to create a blog? No one creates money, no one makes money off of blogs, or yep, oh, you're trying to sell a product online? Well, that's kind of weird. Just little comments and things to make themselves feel better, but they're trying to pull you down. You just need to keep moving forward, moving up. Let me talk a little bit about marketing channels. So we talked a little bit about kind of getting some validation, but there's a lot of ways you can market your product. And we're going to just assume that you're marketing an informational product for the rest of this podcast, because like I said, I think it's, even though it does have higher competition, it's probably one of the easiest things you can do as a developer when you're first starting out. So I think Twitter for developers is probably the second best marketing channel, because Twitter is full of developers and it's really easy. You can make it within 168 characters or 160 characters. You can really reach a lot of people. It has this viral aspect to it. So if you can get someone bigger than you to retweet it, a lot of people can see it. It has a really good developer community. And I've seen a lot of products launched on Twitter, especially by bigger influencers or bigger people with bigger audiences. I've seen some really, really lot of sales from that. I would say the first kind of marketing channel I think is the easiest for most people is email. People to this day, email is getting more and more saturated. We all have tons and tons of emails in our email inbox, but I still think it's like the easiest way to reach people. If you can build an email list, which is kind of the conventional way to create and sell informational products, I think that's what you should do. I think the secondaries, like some other third sources, not as good, would be YouTube. I think there's definitely tons and tons of developers on YouTube. I've had a lot of success, but a lot of times I do is, even though I have a free YouTube channel, I push people to my email list. So a lot of my videos, I'll include a link in my description to my email list. I also put a link in my comments below so people can join. I usually also offer something for someone. They're usually called gifts or opt-ins, you might hear them be called, but it allows people to get a little something for joining your email list. So I give away 2 cheat sheets, one for Vue.js and one for Ember.js, I believe. I used to give away an Ember.js one. I also give the first chapter of my book away for free if they put their email in. So it kind of gives a nice little bonus for people to join my list. And if they don't like my list, they can unsubscribe at any time. But if not, they can get direct information from me. And I usually try to email my list at least once a week or once every other week. And then I just, tell them about how my life's going, and then also promote some of the things I do. And since I usually create 1 or 2 YouTube videos a week, I always have something to promote, and those are all free. I think also in person, if I know Dylan's done some conference talks, I know he's been able to talk about things there. Blogging is another great channel. Usually, once again, though, you want to get people on an email list from your blog. What else do you have, Dylan? Am I missing any?
I mean, meetups are very similar to conferences where you can start a meetup and start networking. And, so often we think of marketing being on a large scale, but sometimes it can be on an individual one as well, and just letting people know about what you're up to. Like things as just picking up consulting work, like it's sort of simplistic marketing, but going to your colleagues and saying, hey, I'm looking for consulting work. You get anything, throw it my way. Or, hey, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? And then, they hear something that they reach out to you down the road. Marketing is, in a weird way, networking to the masses, but don't forget to essentially try and make those networks that people, they market towards you when they think you'd be a good fit for something.
And I also think marketing is, you have to get to know someone. It's almost like dating for a little bit. So you may have a marketing channel like Twitter, for example, but it might take someone like 10, 30, 100 different tweets from you before they'll get to know you well enough to ever buy something from you. Sometimes people get really popular quicker than that. So, and you don't want to, a lot of these channels, these marketing channels, don't go directly to an offer. So in other words, you may have Twitter, but you may not just post a link to your information product on there. Maybe let's say we're creating a React course. That might not do as well as if you put someone well, it might do well if they know, like, and trust you. Like if you have been around for a while, they may buy right away just from a tweet. But other people may need to know you better, and so they may require you to email them, or you may want them to be on your email list first, so you can send them some emails and talk about how you can provide value before they'll buy from you. And also, I didn't mention there's a whole bunch of social media sites, Reddit, Hacker News. There's a bunch of them which you can also use. And this is a very short list, but those are some marketing channels. And there's like several books on like what are some good marketing channels that might work. And in person, like you could just go door to door and just talk to people.
I was going to say another thing I'd suggest is you don't always have to start from nothing with your marketing. If you have a good product or you have something of value, there's a lot of people who have platforms and voices who have been successful in marketing their stuff that will let you do a guest post or and maybe link to whatever it is that you're trying to market. And so by taking some time and providing some value for someone who's in a similar space, not only will you network, and you'll get an opportunity to market through a pre-existing platform. So you don't always have to start something from ground zero.
I have felt so weird like talking to I'm still getting better at it, but there's a few big people that I've ran into, some bigger, I don't know if you want to call them influencers or big people in the tech industry, where I'd just love to I just love to ask them to tweet out my products or ask them to be an affiliate. But I get so nervous because I feel like those people could probably get hit up all the time for that, and they probably don't do it very often for people. And I've actually, I'll be honest, I actually talked to a big, I don't want to say his name, but a big influencer who had a View product, and then I asked him, like, my View product was more advanced, and I asked him if he would be interested in being an affiliate, that we can mention it. And he said no. He said nope, not gonna do it. Like, and it kind of felt like he was very direct, which was good, but then it felt like well, maybe I shouldn't even ask anybody. So yeah, I would definitely do Dylan's advice. Don't feel bad if you ask somebody and they say no, but I think it's worth asking people. But just remind people you're not trying to use people. You probably want to build relationships first. Let me talk about someone that's done this really well, who's created a lot of relationships, who had a really successful launch. There's a guy named Kent C. Dodds. He is really known in the React community for his testing library, but he's just a good-natured guy. He's done tons and tons of conferences. He's had podcasts. He's written articles, but he actually created this new product called Epic React, which is a really in-depth Epic workshop. And he was selling it for like hundreds of dollars. I believe it's like $600 without any discounts for the main product. And he had a sale where he was discounting it down. I think it was like $330 was his first price, and then it went up to $400, and then it went up to $500, and then it went up to $600. And then he also had a couple of tiers. So they're like the cheapest tier was like $100 or something like that, or $90. But his marketing chops was pretty good because he was using a ton of different channels. I saw him write. He has his own blog, so he wrote a bunch of blog posts. I saw posts up on Medium, which is a place you can aggregate blogs. He live streamed, had his own YouTube channel. He live streamed every day of his 2-week launch. He was scanning social media. So anytime on Twitter you would type anything React or learning, he would reply. So I actually mentioned that I was hoping to get some information on React and learning, and he replied to me and saying, "Hey, how about you check out Epic React?" He created a Discord server, which I think he has like 10,000 people in it. He has thousands of people just out throughout the years. He's just pointed people to this Discord server, and so he was able to really push his product there. So he was tweeting dozens of times. He has his own Facebook page. I mean, he was just doing tons of things. So he's using multiple different outlets, and this is almost the way you should probably do it if you're trying to get some traction on a product. You probably want to think of multiple ways of doing it. And he also has an email list too, so maybe hit up your email list. Make sure you mention it in Twitter. And also, I think I felt this too. I'm always like a little worried when I put a product out there that people will think it's not good enough. And I'm like, should I really be pushing this product? You have to have ultimate confidence in your product, and you have to realize it's there to help people. So that was kind of an interesting example. This is podcast going a little long. Let me keep going though. One thing I see, kind of a caveat that I see a lot of people for their first product, and I have mixed feelings about this, and I want to ask you, Dylan, if you agree. I see a lot of people creating cheap $10 products. It's usually some huge influencer that creates like a $10 ebook or a $10 course of some kind for their first one. And I always feel like people look up to these people because usually they're so big they can sell like 1,000 copies of this $10 course and make a bunch of money. But it feels like this might not be a bad idea for a first product, but especially like ebooks take a ton of time to write. And it feels like unless you're a person that already has a huge audience, creating a cheaper product like this probably isn't the best idea. What do you think?
I think it varies, man. I think, to your earlier point, when you market something you're proud of and that provides value. And if you do that, I'm okay with you charging whatever that is worth it for your time. So it is true, you sell a cheaper product, you're going to make less, especially if it's a digital product, but it's going to maybe get more people involved. I would say
Yeah.
don't necessarily focus on the price, just focus on delivering something that whatever the price is, you're happy with the value that someone's getting.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I just worry that some people if you look at someone that has sold a really cheap product and then usually a few weeks later they're like, I made $30,000 on this product.
Oh, I mean,
Realize that
it's
that's not normal and those are very few exceptions.
yeah. It's just like, oh, learn to code in 3 months and go make 200 grand. Like, yeah, I'm sure one dude did that. Like, I'm sure that's a factual statement to a degree, but like, you know, don't expect to make 10, 20, $30,000 the first time you launch a $10 course or $100 course or $1,000 course, probably.
It feels like from my feelings and what I've seen from the guru community, I'm going around and listening to these people that teach people how to make money online. The general idea most of them have is that you should price your products way more than you think you should. So if you think this product is worth $10, you should at least go to $100. Like that should be your minimum in anything you're selling, because it's just so difficult to make any sort of money on a $10 product unless you already have an existing audience. And then uh, so the $100 would be the minimum. So if you want to teach someone how to use React for the first time, sell them $100 course, not a $10 course. Then if you're looking for something that your next product or your next big idea would be something that gives someone like a transformation. Like if you're trying to teach someone to lose weight, to change their lifestyle, to get that new job. So in what we're talking about, developers, like coding boot camps or something that can transform someone's life, those things you want to really price like over $1,000, or at least over several $100s, if not $1,000, if not thousands of dollars, because it's worth so much for them. So if someone pays you, let's say $1,000 to become a React developer, and then they land their first React job and they're making $70,000 a year, that $1,000 investment doesn't sound like that much of a big deal. I mean, I would pay $1,000 to make $70,000 every day, all day long, if I could. So you kind of have to kind of focus on the outcome, but I think in the grand scheme of things, like you don't want to devalue anything below. I mean, just if I had to draw a line in the sand at $100, at least that's what I've kind of feel from the gurus. I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I think it's okay sometimes to charge like a $20 or $30 product, but it really varies. If you don't have any audience and you're trying to make money, you usually have to find less people and charge them more. Let's move on to like a typical launch. So once, let's say you've done the pre-validation, you've come up with a price, you have an idea what you're trying to sell, and you have the marketing channels that that you want to focus on. This is the time you would want to do the pre-launch, and that's where you focus on hype, I guess you could call it. And you could still be doing some validation of your idea, but a couple of good examples is working in public. I think a guy named Swizzix came up with this idea, or maybe he didn't come up with it, but he was a good example recently, where every time he was building a book on what's more of a book/course, on learning how to be a developer, and it had some like good soft skills and how to get your first development job. But a lot of what he was doing is he would tweet out every time he had a new chapter out. He would facilitate feedback. He had an email list that he was wanting people to join. So he was just kind of giving everybody updates of how it was going on the book. And so he kind of definitely working in public, showing progress. And the thing is, he just kept reminding people like, hey, I have this thing I'm going to create. It's going to be out soon. Here's where I'm at. Just keep people in the back of their mind that this is coming out. Also, I would say even before the pre-launch is that you want to do some of the things. You do want to have some sort of audience to launch to. That's probably an important factor, be it 100 people or 1,000 people. But typically the way I see this with informational products is you create an email list. And the way you do that is either through YouTube or blogging. You mention at the end of every single blog, at the end of every single YouTube video for someone to sign up for your list. And then maybe you give them, like I said earlier, a little gift if they come and sign up. But at least try to get people that are interested in you in one place that you can talk to. A Facebook group, like we have one called Code Tech and Caffeine, would be somewhat good. Although I feel like in Code Tech and Caffeine, it's mostly people outside the United States, which is fine, but it's not as many people inside the United States. I don't know if that's just a Facebook thing. Or you can create a Discord server, which is just like a big chat platform, or Slack. There's some way where you can have people that are interested in what you're doing in one place, and you can kind of easily talk to them, and that you build a little bit of an audience before you start. Because the worst thing is if you don't, it's really hard to do a pre-launch if you don't have any sort of launch audience at all.
Yeah. I mean, you launch, but like it's like having your birthday party by yourself. It's gonna feel pretty lonely, and it's not no one's singing for you. So yeah, obviously, you're gonna want to try and get an audience of some sort. That's not to say that you can't do multiple launches either. You could launch, hey, I finished this shit, and now I'm gonna figure out someone to sell it to, because that's just the way it played out. Probably not how it should play out, but all right, cool. Go keep working on it. Start creating that list, and then do the product may be already out, but do a slight tweak to it and say, call it your launch and do it properly that time. There's no reason you have to launch once.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could try to do it more than once. There's an idea of creating products first and then trying to sell them, but it's just different ways of handling it. I've heard of people also in their pre-launch time, when they're still creating the product, they ask for money up front. So it's kind of getting pre-sales for your product. I know my friend Florin, he created an ebook, and he got thousands of dollars in pre-sales for the book, which has kind of it's good and bad. Good that now he's definitely validated the idea, and he knows that people want it, so he has less risk of releasing it and having nobody buy it. Obviously he does, he's already has sales. But the reverse of that now is that he is on the hook with all those people, and he has an ebook, and he wants to make a really good ebook. So I think he's already said once that he wanted to delay the release a little bit, just because he wanted to give himself more time, because he already publicly committed to a time. Because when people were pre-buying it, he gave them a time, and it's not going to be ready by then. So it definitely puts a lot of pressure on you. I think for me, I've done that a few times, and the pressure, I don't think I would do it again. I don't think I would have people pay beforehand, just because it does kind of mess with you a little bit.
I've thought about doing it about this book I've been writing for 4 fucking years. Because it's like, maybe I do need the pressure. And like, there's something about writing a book that's so soothing for me for a while, and then I sort of get distracted and I go elsewhere. But I feel like if I have that financial commitment ahead of time, and like with books specifically, there's platforms where people can, they'll pay the $20 or whatever the ebook would be, and they can see you write the book as you go. So like, you can kind of start getting value immediately as someone who's already bought it. Like, it may not be complete for, let's say, a year and a half, but if you're seeing a new chapter go up once every 6 weeks, you might, you can still sort of deliver some of that value if that's something you're interested in doing.
Yeah, books are great for that. Now that you mentioned that, that's exactly what I did with my book for my Vue.js in Action that was published by Manning. We had this early access program. So literally after I had only 3 or 4 chapters, I think it was 4 chapters written, the book was on sale and anybody could buy it. And then what's nice about that is people could then message me, and there was a whole forum that they could point out my mistakes and I could get help with it, and I could correct it on the go, or if I messed up something up, they would leave a post, or I would get some feedback on it. So that could be, I guess in some ways that is a positive. You could do the same thing with a course, sort of. I guess you could like release some videos, even though you don't have all the videos done. I feel like that doesn't work as well than as a book. Let's move on to email. So part of the pre-launch sequence that you would usually have on, like, let's say an informational product is you would want to try to kind of contact the people that have been interested in this product. And I kind of glossed over building an email list or building lists, but assuming you have one, then you want to kind of tell them why they should buy your product. So I like this format. This, if I mentioned before, this launch book by Jeff Walker. He has this 7 email sequence, but the emails are always like before the launch are just kind of answering the people's questions of why they'd want your product, what it does, and then how it's going to help them. And it's a lot about discussing like what kind of transformation that they're going to get from your product. So instead of just focusing on like the features of your product, like we have 10 hours long, and that it's, like if you were creating a React course, you could be like, well, I'm going over the latest in hooks and it's 10 hours long, and we're going to have 3 examples and 3 projects, and those are like your features that you're mentioning. You probably want to more focus, especially if you're in your emails, to focus on what they're going to get out of that. So instead of discussing, like, you obviously somewhere you probably want to put what the course is about, but you probably want to focus on, like, okay, you can get your first job using React. Like this, you can get a career in web development by learning React. These hooks will make your job this much easier. So you kind of want to frame it and copyright it in such a way that really shows someone the benefits that they're getting from it, and not necessarily just the features. So what does it mean to the person reading? And so there's a whole industry of copywriters and people who are really good at this. And there's several books on it. I think Russell Brunson's one of them, Jeff Walker. You can kind of get samples of different launch emails and how they wrote it. And you kind of get an idea of how to write this. And obviously you don't want to just copy and paste someone else's work, but you can kind of put the tone and sound of, make it your tone, but kind of hit these different points up of how you're going to transform someone, or why someone would buy this, and how it's going to improve their life.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a good point here of pretty much anything that you are trying to do nowadays, and specifically with marketing, it's a skill. These aren't techniques or items that you've just been doing your entire life. It's some of it may come naturally, but there are people who are much better at marketing than Eric and myself, and they've written books and they've done articles and they've shared their knowledge and they've marketed their knowledge. And go and learn from these people and put the time in. And whether you're as successful as you want to be with marketing, who knows, but you'll definitely be a better marketer by the end of it.
Yep, follow that. So that's a little bit of high overview what you want to do in your pre-launch. Start contacting the people before the book is even out. Start right before you launch. Start sending out emails for this either book or information product, whatever it is, a course. Start getting people to understand why, what, how it is. Show a transformation. Testimonials are great too. If you can somehow get people that have either taken the course in the past or taken similar courses to yours. I've had people like send me emails where they just screenshotted people on Twitter saying nice things about them, and use that in their emails just to show that, hey, I'm a real person. I've had positive feedback from people. It's not necessarily this course, but like people really like me. And I think that really helps, because people have this, I think we all have this like group mentality or tribe mentality, and we look to others to show how to act and behave. And if we see others are buying things, it signals to us in our heads that it's okay to do things. So testimonials are like a definite have of something, either the actual program itself or how you've helped other people in the past. And then also, I think another really powerful thing to do in your pre-launch sequence is to mention some sort of scarcity. So scarcity is sometimes a bad word to some people because we're dealing not with physical products, but especially with digital projects, because you could probably think, well, what's the scarcity in a digital product? You can just replace it, replicate it a million times. It doesn't cost you anything more. But the idea of scarcity is that you limit it somehow to get people to buy. So instead of having a course that's open forever at all times at the same price, and just hoping that people will get around to buying it, you kind of force people's hands by saying, well, you only have a sale for this product for the next 5 days, and then the price goes up. And you see this all the time. If you go to any grocery store, department store, big box store, there's always have sales up. If you go to Black Friday, there's only sales up for 24 hours, 48 hours. But it's just basically giving people another reason to buy your product now instead of waiting, because we everyone gets a little lazy. We all think, well, maybe we should buy this, but I could wait a little bit longer. But if you tell me I can only get this price for the next 24 hours, or I lose this bonus in the next 24 hours, then I'm probably going to be more likely to buy it.
Um, it's. I mean, I'm cool with running deals, but like some of the scarcity stuff is like you have these real scammy guys who are just like it's sort of a double edged sword because like yeah, cool. Like when I send out a Udemy coupon that says, "Hey, this is the best price. It's only good for 5 days." It's true, but like a lot of these guys who are like, there's just it it can fall into that high pressure sales situation, but it also can just be like a normal thing. And so like as long as it's done respectfully and without the high pressure, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think I even Adam Wathen tweeted once that he's like, I'm glad I've never had to do these scarcity tactics that these other people have done. I'm like, so first off, if I know that I'm selling you a quality product that I believe that will really help you in your life, that will make you a better developer, that will help you get that next job or get that raise that you're looking for, or at least if nothing else will be interesting distraction for a few hours that will be a positive experience for you, I feel like it's okay to do one of these tactics, to have a sale for the next 24 hours, to I do live classes. So sometimes I open up my course from a certain time and I close it at a certain time. But the reason I do that is because I need to control how many people go into the course, because if I have 1,000 people in the course, I'm not going to be able to effectively help everyone. And I'm going to have to hire some more people. So I closely monitor when the course opens and when the course closes. And also my last time I did a course launch, I gave away a free book, but I only allowed that free book to be given away if you bought the course in the first 3 days. And one of the reasons I did that is because I only had a handful of those books. So if I had let it open forever, then then uh, then I would have ran out of books, and I wouldn't have been able to help everybody, or would have to buy a ton of more books. So I think there's like legitimate reasons to have like these tactics where you have a 24-hour sale, or like the card is only open from this day to this day, that isn't scammy. It definitely can feel scammy, and I think some people overuse it. Like I've seen some people that have literally like countdown timers that just reset after every 24 hours. I feel like you could go too far, but for the most part I think it's fine to use, and it just gives someone a little bit more reason to buy your product at that time rather than putting it off. And I think we also, as humans, have this idea that, like, it's just kind of ingrained in our head that like things disappear and that we need to buy them right away. And if they aren't, we don't take it as seriously. You could disagree, and you can also, like even Kent C. Dodds, he definitely did the scarcity tactic. He was doing every 48 hours, he was raising the prices, and there's no reason he had to raise the prices, but he did. I also love it. Like I'm a guy that loves deals, so I love it. Like when I'm paying attention to something and I buy something right before the price goes up and everybody else has to wait, or right before it sells out, I'm like, yes, I got this. And like it's a good feeling, and I feel like, oh, the people that weren't paying attention that have to pay more. I mean that's sort of their fault. Like they should have been paying attention more. I don't know. let's move on to the launch part, and we're going to wrap this podcast up soon because we're about an hour in. So the launch part is kind of the most exciting part for me. So after you've done a number of emails to hype people up, to get them going, to lay out how the launch is going, this is where you are kind of in heightened mode. So you launch it, the cart is open, people can buy the product, and this is where you definitely have to heavily focus on interacting with your audience, just like Kent C. Dodds did with tweeting people and writing articles and doing live blogs or live videos. This is exactly what you should do. So in one way I do it is I email people, just like I did in my pre-launch, and it's a lot of answering questions on why they should buy. It's definitely lots of emails. So some people don't like this. So if you join for an email list, expect when people to sell products, they're probably going to email you a lot, but you can always leave their email list if you don't like it. But it's answering objections and questions, showing transformations and testimonials. And then when you get to the end of you usually have a launch sequence, either there's going to be at some time that the price is going to go up or you're going to close the cart or something. You usually email people either sometimes 2 or 3 times a day near the end, just reminding people hey, this is going to go up in price at this time. You're going to lose this special offer at this time, or you're not going to be able to product at this time, just to remind people. And you would be surprised. A lot of people wait to the last day to buy. It's just kind of a normal influence for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, most people are procrastinators by nature, right?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people wait to the last day. And if you don't remind people on that last day, they'll never buy. And then there's this post-mortem of your marketing, where after you've launched the product, hopefully you've gotten a lot of good feedback. People have bought it. They're satisfied. They're happy. You're not getting a bunch of returns or people asking for their money back. And then you may also be fixing bugs. And I've done this in a couple of my programs. After I've launched, people have said, oh, there's a bug here, bug there. I'll go back through. I'll re-record a screencast, or I'll fix a minor thing here or there. Or sometimes you find out, this happened to me the other day. I created a product that, it helped. We had a handful of people, maybe 20 people buy it, but I definitely felt like I didn't hit the right chord. There's a lot of people that would have bought my other product. So I had to kind of figure out what went wrong. Why didn't people buy the product? And so I had to email everybody. I kind of called it the "Why do you hate me" email. So I was asking them why didn't they buy? Was it too expensive? Was it not expensive enough? Did it not include what they wanted? By the way, with price, I kind of brought this up a lot in this podcast. The way I think about it is I rather add more value than discount the price. So usually the 2 things you always learn when you create a product and people don't buy is that either people don't have enough time or it was too expensive. And so you really have to hit those 2 things that you always really have to hit, how can you make this worth people's time for them to buy? So if they don't have enough time, that this makes it worth it for them. But also, if you get a lot of people saying it's too expensive, rather than discounting the price, I would try to figure out what you can add to add more value to it. So maybe next time, if you get a lot of people saying it's too expensive, maybe it's time to add a ton of more things to it, like live classes or something that makes it more valuable. So that's all I have. That's my very long spiel about marketing. Like I said, this is kind of a high-level overview. We didn't even really get into copywriting, how to write good copy, which is a big part of this. I don't know. Do you have any parting words, Dylan?
Just my usual advice of, if you have a project, work on it and slowly market it, but get started and do something, because doing something is 90% of it. And then you'll, through trial and error, you'll get better. Same thing with marketing and building anything from scratch.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to find more about what I'm up to, go to dylanisrael.com.
And if you want to know what I'm up to, you can check out my website at eric.video. If you haven't already, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And if you do, you might even be featured on our next episode. Don't forget to check out the website at selftaughtornot.com. From there, you can sign up for a mailing list where we give away free courses and a bunch of cool stuff. And we'll also let you know when the next episode comes out. And finally, if you didn't know, we have a Facebook group. It's called Code, Tech, and Caffeine. We have over 10,000 members, and you can find the link at selftaughtornot.com. So come join us. We have tons of developers willing to help you guys, mentor you guys. Check it out. Just make sure you go to selftaughtornot.com and check out the Code, Tech, and Caffeine link. Thanks, and take care.